Welcome to Hood War Stories. In this episode, I'll be discussing the life of Cleamon Johnson. Cleamon Johnson, also known as Big Evil, was born on October 15, 1967, in Los Angeles, California. He grew up with two loving parents, Aileen and Cleamon Johnson Sr., and they raised him in a 3-bedroom home that was located on 88th Street. They lived in a white house with a nice porch and a good-sized backyard, which included a mini playground. Cleamon and his siblings would play games in that yard and invite the kids in the neighborhood to join. The family of 7 would say grace every night before dinner. The neighbors remember Cleamon as a sweet child with a big smile. He would always help the ladies bring in groceries from their vehicles. He was also a member of the Boy Scouts, and he earned many merit badges. He learned to fight at an early age in order to defend himself from his brothers and older guys in the neighborhood. That was a time when kids used to fight in South Central and not be so quick to pick up guns. In 1969, when Cleamon Johnson was only 2, Stanley Tookie Williams and Raymond Lee Washington came together and started the Crips, less than a mile away from where Cleamon Johnson lived. Life in South Central would never be the same. Various groups of young men and boys from rival gangs, which included the Bounty Hunters, Brims, and the Swans, came together in response to the Crips. Over time, the East Coast Crips, Avalon Garden Crips, and the Kitchen Crips began to close in on Cleamon's neighborhood from all 3 sides. His neighborhood became known to be the 89 Family Swan Bloods. On a hot summer afternoon, when Cleamon was only 8 years old, he was sitting on a fire hydrant on 84th and Town when a car rolled up. A few teenagers got out the car and opened fire, striking his friend Daryl over 10 times. That was Cleamon's first up-close view of death. He was numb ever since. Not even a year later, Cleamon witnessed another boy get murdered. At that point, he was used to the violence, and he naturally became involved in it due to his surroundings. Cleamon began getting into fights at school, but through it all, he remained a good student who maintained A's and B's. Cleamon's parents would take him and his brothers camping in Oregon every year, and would often take a few of the boys in the community as well. The Johnsons weren't rich, but they spoiled their kids. At Christmas time, when the other kids would receive roller skates, the Johnson boys would get go-karts. Cleamon attended Drew Middle School near Watts at the age of 13. There, he would be encountering young Crips hourly. One day, a larger, older Kitchen Crip had been bullying some of the younger boys. Cleamon charged a boy and smashed his face into a basketball pole until blood leaked on the court. At that moment, the other boys in school looked up to Cleamon. Some girls did too. From then on, Cleamon became more involved with the 89 Family Swans. He started hanging out with the older guys, many of them ex-convicts. Cleamon's stepbrother said that the Swans were glad to have Cleamon on their side. Cleamon developed a notorious reputation for being a ruthless street fighter. His stepbrother said he was vicious with his hands, elbows, head, feet, knees, and teeth. By the late 1970s, his fighting turned into shooting people. During this time, he took the most ruthless Family Swan members and created a separate unit called the 88 Monsters. Although he still lived with and respected his parents, on the street his rage would flow. Defending his hood became an obsession. One of his fellow gang members once said, "When his anger goes off, it is something to check out, blood." It was scary. He began like a hurricane, and you just can't stop him. You know that he ain't just talking, like so many other niggas. If he said it, I would say to myself, someone gonna die tonight. Because of Cleamon, the district's attorney hardcore gang unit viewed the 89 Family Swans as the deadliest small gang in the city. Part of the reason they were so violent was that they were surrounded by much larger gangs on 3 sides. In order to keep their small territory, 89 had to fight harder. Detective Thomas called Cleamon the most cold-blooded killer in the city of Los Angeles. He stated that one of the gang's traits was their turnaround time when it came to a retaliation shooting. The 89 Swans became notorious for quick paybacks. When detectives would hear that there had been a shooting in 89 Swans turf, they would rush over to their rivals' territory and wait for them to come by. Many times they had already given payback. Cleamon built a reputation for beating murder raps and allegedly calling in several murders from behind bars. He even ordered the assassination of Detective Matthew. For a while, the LAPD SWAT team had to shadow Detective Matthew for his safety. One day in 1991, Cleamon had his guys do 2 other shootings just to get police away from the Avalon Gardens. He had guys in stolen cars waiting as getaway drivers. Once police were away from the projects, Cleamon led 10 guys, and they walked into the middle of the projects and fired more than 200 rounds. The police said that luckily only one person died that day. On August 5th, 1991, Donald and Peyton were waiting at a car wash on 88th and Central Avenue. A young Swan then walked up with an Uzi and opened fire, fatally wounding Donald and Peyton. Donald had worked at a local cable company and was a new father. He had just got back home from the Marines a few months prior. Authorities said that Cleamon ordered the murders as he sat 100 feet away from the car wash on the porch of his parents' home, which he considered his throne. Donald and Peyton were murdered because they lived east of Central Avenue, which was a dividing line between the Crips and the Bloods. Cleamon even acknowledged that he knew they weren't gang members. Cleamon had just recently recruited a new young Swan and wanted to provide him with a mission to earn his stripes. He spotted them at the car wash and issued their death sentences. On September 12, 1992, Albert, who was a member of the family Swans, took his brother to Cleamon's house. Albert's brother was a member of a rival Crip gang. A shootout ensued, and Albert's brother was shot. He survived, but lost the use of one eye. The police arrested 3 men, including Cleamon. Albert's brother planned to testify against Cleamon at trial. When it became clear that Albert's brother couldn't be swayed to not testify, Cleamon ordered Cleamon Johnson to murder Albert's brother. On September 16, 1992, Leon fatally shot Albert's brother in the back of the head. Just 3 days later, the 89 Swans got word that the 97 East Coast Crips were having a party nearby. Cleamon and 2 other men drove to the party and opened fire at 9 people that were outside. 3 people were shot, and Tyrone Mosley died from his gunshot wounds. By that time in the early 90s, the neighborhood controlled by the 89 family Swans was among the deadliest in California. In 1993 alone, there were 32 murders in the gang's quarter of a square mile turf. Authorities say that the 80 members of Cleamon's gang were responsible for more than 70 murders in that decade. In 1994, LAPD issued a task force to take down Cleamon. The main problem was getting witnesses to take the stand. Many times, Cleamon was arrested as the prime suspect in a murder case, and he would end up walking free. Word began to spread in the street that he was untouchable. A former girlfriend used to ask him, "How many times you gonna get arrested for murder and then get out right away? Everyone in the neighborhood was talking about it. He's gonna get out and murder you if you rat it on him. It's really that simple." In 1994, Gloria told authorities that she saw 89 Swan member kill a man. A few days later, she was murdered. Denise Jones testified in the same case. She was also murdered. The most striking thing about Cleamon was not his tall frame, but it's his warm personality. He has a big smile and loves to joke with people. You would never be able to tell that he's a deadly monster. LAPD has linked Cleamon to over 20 murders. In September 1997, Cleamon and co-defendant Allen were convicted of murdering Donald and Peyton and were sentenced to death. Cleamon seemed unconcerned that he was headed to death row. He said after he got the death penalty, he celebrated in jail with some homemade brew. He said he knows he'll be around for at least 10 more years with all the appeals. He said getting the death penalty saved his life. After Cleamon was sentenced to death, his mother asked herself, "What makes a good boy go bad?" She said, "I feel I gave him my all. I just don't know what happened sometimes. I feel I am to blame, but I did all a mother could do. I don't know why it turned out like this." Detective Matthew also reflected on Cleamon's swift transition from boy to out-of-control killer. He said, "He used to come up and ask me for baseball cards. 2 months later, we're looking for him on a murder." His guilty conviction was overturned by the California Supreme Court in 2011, ruling that the judge improperly removed a juror from the trial. On October 30th, 2021, Big Evil's son, Cleamon Johnson Jr., was fatally shot on the 2800 block of Jameswood Avenue in Koreatown. He suffered multiple gunshot wounds and died at the hospital. Cleamon Johnson is currently at the LA County Jail and expected to face trial next year. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.